Hi, I'm Jenn Drummond. Welcome to Seek Your Summit. As a mom, a business owner, and the first female to climb the 7-second summits, I realize that the mountains we climb are a part of our success. And it is up to us to go beyond that success into a life of significance. Listen in as I share personal stories and interview others who have led a life of both success and significance, and now they are paying it forward. All right, so today I have Sophy Kohler from Park City Gardens on the podcast. I'm so excited to share her story because she's definitely a person that did a huge life pivot and reinvented herself and is living her best life. And for all of us listening that have that little inkling inside of us that we're maybe not allowing to come to life, this is going to give you the inspiration to lean into that and to make more possible. So Sophy, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's awesome. And it's so fun because I love the gardens. I get flowers there every week.
I love seeing you there.
It's just, yes. And like all the things you've done with it make me so happy. And I take people there still and they'll be like, I didn't know they had these little picnic tables over here or this little spot. So it's fun.
It's a great place to bring the family. What are we going to do today? Let's just go burn some time in the gardens.
But your story starts on the East Coast. And are you all girls in your family?
No, it's a patchwork family, half siblings, step siblings. I have one full sister. East Coast family, modest upbringing, artist, bohemian parents.
And then they got divorced and you guys moved around a lot. At 16, you said, I'm going to boarding school.
Yeah, was told / said.
Did you like it?
In a way, I did like it. I was 100% independent.
Okay.
And coming in as a 16-year-old, as a junior, you don't have a group of friends. That kind of created a path for my future where I was totally comfortable being completely alone. So making any move to a different state, city, country, no problem.
When did the love of finance come into play for you?
Honestly, my first love was more geopolitical. And so I wanted to save the world. But coming from a modest background and without parents who were really helping curate your future, I just put my nose to the grindstone and started working and eventually realized that with all the hard work, you might as well try to make some money. So that's what I did. I tried to get the best job I could do. And in certain avenues back east, it's hard to see past just getting into that best school that you can possibly get into and getting the best job that you can possibly get at some company.
And where did you go to college?
I went to a liberal arts school outside of Chicago called Lake Forest College.
I went to Hope College in Holland, Michigan, which is a little
cute.
liberal arts school not too far from there.
It was like a blast from the past. Still had toga parties and stuff like that.
I love it.
I loved it. It was a great time of life. Super into my studies at that point. And then I went to Columbia for business school.
And then from Columbia, you went into finance. And what was your role in finance?
I worked for a boutique research firm. It was when the economy tanked, when I set off into the real world. If you remember, what was still making money at that point was commodities, like gold and aluminum. So I was able to jump into a sales role focusing on commodity clients.
So here you are living on the East Coast, doing the financial job, and you came out west for like ski trips to unplug, or what brought you like?
Yes, every paycheck I had, I would spend it on a ticket to go play in the mountains or on the beach somewhere. I was visiting a friend from college out here, and she invited a mutual friend along. Turned out that he's now my husband. We met on a backcountry ski in the Wasatch, which I had no idea what I was doing. City girl.
Right. That's a different monster.
But I think he liked how I was going for it. 2 weeks later, he said he was coming to New York.
And so then what made you guys decide to do Utah instead of New York for living?
So he flirted with the idea of moving to New York and had some job interviews. But he's like a classic kind of Utah pioneer entrepreneur. So like he has an idea, he goes for it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas back east, you can't really have that mentality unless you're a total millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just going to create something. Impossible. It's oversaturated. It's just too hard.
Mm-hmm.
He had already created multiple businesses here in Utah just on his own, starting from when he was a kid. It was just like realizing that what he had built here was so valuable. And then also, I had fallen in love with Utah by that point.
I remember coming out to Utah, and I lived in Michigan. And people were like, Utah? What's in
Yeah.
Utah? They treated it
So
like it was
weird.
a Dakota or something. I'm telling you, it's like the United States' best kept secret.
Mhm.
Not that we want to share this. We don't need any more population.
No
We're
more.
fine. Live where you live. I just remember having that same feeling. I'm like, why Utah?
Oh, yes.
And then you get out and you're like, oh, I get it.
I think my mom, still to this day, if I told her that I had converted to the predominant religion out here, she would believe it and be like, like, that's how people are about Utah. It's just,
It's so
they don't get
funny.
it.
So you guys, were you nervous moving out here? Because when you're in finance, New York's the place to be.
New York, London, and then being in commodities, I was in South America and Canada a lot. So there was zero connection to that world. I was virtually just starting fresh. I get a little exhilarated by that. So I was excited. The scariest part is that I had never lived with a boyfriend before. Moving in with him was the hardest part.
Yeah, I believe it. I'm one of those people that like married, you live in that house, I'll live in this house, and we'll go out on dates and it'll be perfect.
See you once a month.
Yes, yeah. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so then you come here, you move in with them, you have the job, you guys decide to get married. When did you decide, hey, I don't want to do finance anymore?
It was really eating at my soul. Being a young person, it is not bad for you to go out and work hard, even if it's something that you're not necessarily passionate about. Like, you will gain skills and relationships. And so I don't sit around and regret working hard and working in finance, but I was slowly dying inside. I think I just had this weight on me, and I was ashamed of myself for some reason. Like, I wasn't proud of what I was doing, which is an awful feeling. You're working your butt off.
Right.
At this point, we had kids, we had built a house in Park City, and I was working. I had a live-in nanny who was there 60 hours a week working on the clock. That was the time that I wasn't with my family. And I remember dropping off the kids at preschool and seeing everyone just hanging out, enjoying life in Park City. And I'm getting ready to go catch a flight and just, what am I doing wrong? This isn't how I want to live.
Isn't that funny how our environment, like, we'll see different things. You're like, is that what I want to do? How did that happen?
Yeah.
And why am I making this choice? And
I didn't even know that was an option.
when I first moved to Park City, I remember going to a fitness class and feeling good about myself. And then I realized I was the only person that went to one class and everybody else went to 2 or 3. I'm like, maybe I could do more than one class. I didn't know that's a thing. Then you like shift environments and you're thinking, how does this work? It just opens your mind to different opportunities. So you start realizing, I don't want to drive all the time, or I don't want to be flying, or I don't want to be gone, or I don't want the nanny there 60 hours a week. And so what are you doing to figure out like what that next step is? How are you deciding that or looking at that? Or
that was honestly the hardest part, because it doesn't matter if friends or your partner is always telling you what you're great at, because it doesn't click. That's just like how you are. That's your natural way. You don't necessarily know that you can commoditize like what you're good at, whether that's working out or even communicating, like your relationships with people. How do you monetize that? You don't really fathom it. I had friends that would tell me that I was creative, artistic, liked my taste, that kind of realm, but I didn't put that together. All I knew is that when I would get home from a long day in the office, I would go outside and be in my yard, cutting flowers, messing with my garden until dark.
that was your safe space.
That was my therapy. Like trail running or mountain biking, like I'd come inside, have some massive wildflower arrangement and be like, okay, now I'm ready to talk.
Yeah, I could be human again.
When traveling, including when I moved to Utah, I would always go to flower shops, plant nurseries. Some people check out the local museums. I do that too, but I would also go to the local nursery, and it just, let's get the flavor on where I am. And I just enjoyed it. So that's how I found the original Park City Nursery. I would just go there a lot to relax, and I would always come away a little disappointed. Man, that place just could be a little better.
Yeah.
I'd have this like kind of feeling that was eating at me. That's how it started. It was probably 5 years of having this like, why do I care? Why do I even care? I keep going back, and then I'm a little mad. And it took a while to be like, wait a minute, maybe I could do this. And I remember telling my husband, and he laughed and was like, that's a great retirement plan. Like,
Yeah.
we are in no position to go buy a old business, right? Ditch all the benefits of your job. So yeah, it just seemed like this impossible thing.
And so it started impossible. It was
Mhm.
like something in the back of your mind nagging at you for 5 years. And then what made you decide to start having a conversation with the owner?
I had some preliminary awkward conversations when I'd see them there.
Okay.
They were, be quiet, lady. I'd
Okay.
be like, have you ever considered selling? Just blurt it out. But I was in no place to be having that conversation. We came from not much, built this house. We're trying to make it in Park City.
Yep.
I was in no position to be buying a business. It's true. One night, I was so disgruntled about my finance job and my career and where my life was going. It was probably 1 a.m, and I'm drinking whiskey on my balcony. I started shooting off emails, and about a week later, I got a message back from their accountant saying, I'll talk to you. So one of my emails got to someone.
And don't you think sometimes it's like throwing it out there, which then gets it in somebody else's mind?
Yeah.
And then at some point, you have this disgruntled moment. They probably have a disgruntled moment. And then timing aligns because it's so much timing.
And then I think at that point, they took me seriously enough.
Okay.
And I'd planted that seed in their head.
Yeah.
And they were like, it's a laborious business. And they had been doing it for 33 years. I'm sure they were exhausted.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. I loved that nursery, but it was in rough shape.
I don't even remember. I drive past it every single time I pretty much leave my house. So then you guys figure out a way to negotiate a deal. It's the end of what year?
Christmas Day of 2016.
2016.
That the sale goes through.
Wow. Christmas Day.
I know. And yeah, I think I'm 34 when that happens, or 35. It took about a year for that to actually fall into place. And amazing things happened that year. I'm all about what the universe has to offer me. Things were happening, like our investment cabin sold for a ridiculously good top dollar, and someone wanted to buy the coffee shop that we had started in Salt Lake City. Little things were just happening that enabled me to be able to actually do such a thing. Barely scraped it together.
The interesting thing is when you bought this, there was a lot of opinions in town.
Yeah, that was unforeseen to me. So here I am thinking like fresh blood. I'm here to learn and work hard. I was getting so much both direct and behind my back commentary on how awful it was that there had been a change in ownership, a change of hands. When you're in a beloved small town, and one of the oldest businesses changes hands, people have opinions about it. Honestly, you can't please everyone. You don't know what people want from you. But what I did know is that I wanted to please, even though the old owners were very private, I really wanted to please them with this choice that they had made. And then I also wanted to do it right with these long-term employees that came with the purchase of the business. So I kept everybody, and some of these people had been there for over 20 years.
Wow.
And so I wanted to prove to them.
So when you bought it though, did you have the vision of where it is today, or was like, hey, I'm going to buy it and just figure out what's going on while I'm here and then evolve it?
I 100% had. I had the vision years before when I would be puttering around in the nursery. So what's special about the nursery is that it's one of the oldest structures, group of structures, properties in Park City. So it predates the mining town aspect. And so
Okay.
before the miners, there were just a couple ranch families. And Sniderville is named after the Snider family. The nursery was the Snider Homestead.
I didn't know that.
So it's cool. One of the building that's now the Garden Cafe was the original general store.
Oh,
So
cute.
that was selling like bulk flour and stuff. You pull your wagon up type thing. So there was like so much history there. All of those buildings were just falling over,
100, yes.
filled with rodent skeletons. And yeah, so it was one battle after the next with just permitting and getting people's buy-in. I would just walk around the neighborhood and knock on people's doors, introduce myself, tell them what I was thinking, ask them if they would like to support it just with their favor. Have you ever been to like a county council meeting?
No, I have not, but I heard they're not
Good
amazing.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'll pass on that.
Yes.
But because there's a lot of opinions on everything that's
Yes.
going on, so you really have to win. Yeah, so you're going door to pitch what you want to do
Mhm.
so that you can get it approved.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And then before I started doing that, I just, like you were saying, I laid low for about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And here at 5,000, almost 6,000 feet, we specialize in high altitude planting,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't necessarily know anything about. I'm from the East Coast. Everything, it's like hydrangeas and whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I just learned, and I wanted to learn the way that we told people. So I just listened to all of my employees. Actually, talking to the customers is how you get a ton of information, just people who have lived here forever.
Yep. Because we've left a lot of little microclimates here
Yeah.
too with these little pockets of things.
Exactly. Yeah, I just learned and did my own research and tried to just do it the way that it always had been done, so I didn't ruffle any feathers.
Yep.
And then I realized I really like the way that it's always been done. And I've got like great relationships with farmers and growers, and so much of what is here is so good. And I don't want to change it. All I want to do is make it a little better by adding a few things.
Mm-hmm.
And so we took those ramshackle buildings, and one by one, we started to try to reinvent them. People didn't even know you could go inside. It was like, is
Okay.
this safe? So we made them safe.
Yep, yep.
We updated and refreshed all of the little buildings and gave them their own kind of identity: flower shop, coffee shop, boutique, greenhouse. And there we are.
Wow. What order did you launch them in then? So you had the greenhouse, right? And then the flower barn. Was the flower barn at the same time that the coffee shop launched?
So the first thing that I did was the boutique, because it was in that charming little house.
I know, it's adorable.
It's adorable, and it wasn't being used. And so the first thing I did was just clean it out and decorate it. It was so fun. And there was really nothing like that in Park City. Like you couldn't buy an indoor plant unless you went to the grocery store. So I was like, there's a huge opportunity for any nerd like me that loves flowers and plants and little things that kind of go with that. I never fancied myself to be in retail, to be a buyer, but I would say I spend a big chunk of my time being a buyer. But just going back to, it's not hard. I'm just going with my instincts. If I like it, chances are other people are going to like it too. So that's what I do. I don't overthink it. I haven't studied it at all. I'm just going with what feels right for the space.
Have you always been that intuitive and trusting your own guidance?
Definitely. I can't spend a whole lot of time introspecting, or it just gets me in a
it
weird,
gets me sideways.
yeah.
I just am like, if I feel it, we got to go. And
Yeah.
I have to execute, because if I hesitate, then it doesn't help me either.
I go with
Yeah.
the flow, move to Utah.
Yes. Have kids,
Quit my
buy a
job.
flower shop. Like what? Would your younger self be, this is what I saw you doing?
To a certain degree, I had this whole path planned out where I was going to like somehow go and generate some money.
Okay.
And then I wanted to buy a business, but I didn't know what that was.
Yep.
And then I wanted to go into politics, and that has changed. I love doing the community stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's another part of buying the nursery that I had no idea was going to be a huge part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I spend a lot of time just engaging with the community, partnering on things, offering up the space, whatever.
And I think it's interesting that you said, that, hey, I got a job that would give me financial flexibility later on in life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I started my career in finance too,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just because, thank God, because if I didn't, I would have been a financial train wreck my entire life.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, the latest purse, new car, let's do it, right? Like, I didn't think about the long-term consequences. But when you get into finance, you learn the time value of money and opportunity costs and all these different pieces that even if you jump into another career, you have
Yeah.
that foundational knowledge that you
Right.
carry with you. And so that finance career gave me flexibility later on,
Mm-hmm.
which I think a lot of times people say, follow your passion, which you can, but maybe not first,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what field your passion is in, because some of them have a different return rate than others.
Yes, well said.
Yeah. And just knowing that at some point you wanted to put yourself in a position to be able to buy a business. Your husband was into buying businesses and building them from before. So you
Mm-hmm.
had that experience,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then transitioning that identity from, okay, I'm this financial person. Here's what I do. Here's how it is. Now I'm in this an entirely creative space.
Yeah. I think I just from, being in that East Coast path and whatever the ladder is, if it's getting into the best school you can get into, if it's working your way up the corporate ladder, I was, I'm competitive. Like I was doing it. And so that's what I envisioned was like, what's the next rung? And I
Yeah.
don't feel that way anymore.
Isn't that awesome?
It's amazing. Yeah. I'm like, oh, this is what it's like to be old.
To be
Yeah,
like, no,
at peace.
yeah. And I love it that you did it like organically. Okay. Because for me, I had a horrific car accident. And that
Mhm.
horrific car accident was the line in the sand. I'm
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, do I want my whole story to be this? And who can I beat? And how do I like go harder? And the only reason why I survived the car accident is because I surrendered. And I thought that I'm like, because prior to that, surrender was like, no, surrender, you gave up. Surrender's the right flag. Like,
Right.
surrender's not an
Yeah,
option.
weak.
Yeah. And then you learn how surrender can be a superpower and you can still achieve and do amazing things.
Hmm.
And I'm like so grateful for that accident. But I love how you made the pivot with just like, I don't like my job anymore.
Yeah,
That's
I think
awesome.
one thing is that I like to take risks.
Yeah.
So like I like it. So that it's not for everyone. I think some people just feel so uncomfortable and you do need to feel a little bit uncomfortable and step out, I think, to make any big change. But for me, like that part was exciting and I knew what it was like to have nothing. And it's not that scary to me.
I think that's so important
Yeah.
to be able, like, when I know that, hey, I can live off of ramen noodles and still be happy,
Yes.
that allows me to take a bigger risk because I've done
Exactly.
ramen. We're good. Like, we
Yeah.
survived that phase and it will be a phase. So we'll be good.
Totally.
Okay. So the gardens, like, it goes from the nursery to the gardens, and you have all these buildings and you have all this space that people, it is a community space.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's fun about it. And in the winter, when the greenhouse is going
Mm-hmm.
and it's cold outside and you want a coffee and to be warm, you have that option. And you're
Yeah.
surrounded by all this greenery because everything else is white and dead.
Yeah, it worked out even better than I thought it was going to. I thought it would be so lovely. And yeah, now it's just this little green oasis in our cold little town in the winter.
Yeah.
But we have 10 acres. And yeah, I love when
So
people
how
just
does
go
that 10
wander
acre,
around.
so you're on 224 and you have the 10 acres and then it goes back into the behind where the dinosaur is and
Yeah.
stuff over there?
So if you follow the stream, it just keeps going back. There is a little bridge and a bike path back there. It goes to that bridge.
Okay.
So I like keeping it wild. I don't want to make it like store, like the floor, a retail area. The meadow where we have the little bistro lights and the picnic tables, that's my favorite part of the nursery.
Yeah.
That's where the employees go hang out. So yeah, I think I'm done building it up except for maybe just a few more little outdoor natural spaces.
And are you going to do like weddings and stuff there in the future, or what are you thinking?
So I dabble with events, and
Mhm.
at the end of the day, my favorite type are the free ones that we do for the community.
Mhm.
Everything else is like, why did I bother?
It's so much work for
Events
what
are great,
yeah.
and that belongs in an event space. My place is funky and rustic and very special and fragile. And yeah, we do not need people partying
Yeah. Yeah.
in the nursery in the greenhouse. But for the right occasion, like it is perfect. So
Mhm.
if you're friends of the nursery, then oftentimes it can work out. If you're not, then you don't really get it, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, you don't understand the vibe and the energy that the
Yeah.
space requires. Yeah, I understand that. And I'm so disappointed that I don't get to join the succulent class because I already have something that day. But you offer classes,
Mhm.
which is super fun.
Yeah.
And I was in the flower barn the other day and they said if you have enough people, they'll do a private class
Yeah.
for you. So that's pretty exciting. So do you see this because you like taking risks? Do you see this being your passion project or do you think you'll pick up something else in the future?
I don't know. I don't have 7 kids, but I've got 2 boys, and I just love hanging out with them. So that's where my heart is now. So I love being at the nursery. Part of the great thing about the nursery is that I'm across the street from where they go to school.
Yes.
It's really nice. And these ages, they're 9 and 11. It's exciting times. They're both super sporty. I said, I'm a competitive sports mom over here. So that's what I'm looking forward to in this next phase. And I want to just go all in before it's over.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what the next chapter looks like.
So people who are listening today, what advice would you give them that gives them the courage to say, or the space to say, I want something different?
What's the worst thing that could happen?
Right.
So, are you humiliated? Do you have to start building your savings account again? Okay, at least you tried.
Hmm.
Like, what makes you happy? I think at the end of the day, just what makes you happy. You know what? If it's what you're meant to be doing, and I'm sure there's some way that you could make a living off of it.
And I just like how if you look back, and I think always looking back, we can connect dots,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when we're in it, the dots are maybe harder to connect. But looking at you naturally, when you went into towns, you'd visit like flower shops and
Mm-hmm.
nurseries and things. I'm like, that's something I don't do. That's okay. That's not a bad thing. It's
Yeah.
just that gives me an idea that I probably will not be a nursery purchaser at some time in the future. But then, like, you had the coffee shop down in Salt Lake.
Mm-hmm.
So, bringing the coffee shop here, you had a little bit of experience of what that would look like and
Mm-hmm.
how it would show up here. I love hiking. Like, I love being outside. So that if I don't make it to the top of the mountain, I'm okay because I like the entire pursuit to wherever I got on the mountain. Now, do I want to get to the top? Yeah, I'll probably come back so that I can get to the top. But I'm not like, not all was lost.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, if you enjoy the journey, I think definitely. For example, I love to work in the nursery. So I can't just be running around talking with customers all day because then I don't get all the business side done. But if I can spend a good chunk of my week doing that in each division, except I don't know how to make a latte, so you won't find
Yeah.
me in the coffee shop, like that still brings me so much joy. And from the creative side, can I put together a potting? Can I make an arrangement? I make sure that I am still doing that every week.
Is there classes or schools that you guys or your employees go to get better at this too? Because I'm guessing all of it's a skill that you can develop at some level.
Yeah, I definitely believe in natural talent,
Yeah.
and you're either going to be good at it or you're not. So when I see natural talent, then I will send employees to get some more technical training. So, like the LA Flower School, we've had several of our people go there. And then, same with the other divisions. I would love for my baristas to go into the barista competition. That would be awesome. And with people who kind of gravitate to the greenhouse and want to start studying indoor plant species versus outdoor plant species, give everyone the opportunity and see what you're best at. And maybe it's not learning and being an expert in something. Maybe you like to merchandise, or maybe you just like to prune and water, like whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, you do that and you do that, and we're good.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a lot of employee turnover?
Thankfully, because it can be a tough economy in small resort towns like we live in.
And you have such a seasonal thing.
Yes, I've been very fortunate that I don't have too much turnover. With the seasonal thing, it depends on the level of job. And so we will hire college kids and stuff who are obviously going to not stick around forever. But we have so many wonderful part time people who are like very overqualified, and this is what they're doing for fun. And they've moved on from their past life, and everyone works 2 days a week, and that's fine with me. I'm like so grateful that you're here.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome. All right. So how do people get in contact with the nursery to be able to see all the magic that you've done?
Oh, You will run right into it if you come into Park City. It's 4459 Highway 224. It's right on the right-hand side. You'll see the greenhouse and these small old white farmhouse buildings before the Canyons Village exit.
Okay.
Or obviously you can find us online and all that.
And if you go online and you know somebody in the area, you can like order flowers and they'll
Mhm.
deliver them and all the things. And so anybody who wants to ever deliver me flowers, if they don't come from there, I'm not happy. So there you
Thank
go.
you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for wanting to talk. This has been fun.
Yay.